Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And I want you to hold on to your hats, because what I'm about to tell you is stunning. At their conference, Humza Yousaf announced £300 million for the NHS and a freeze on council tax. Both of these things were bare-faced lies. He stood there and he's lied to his own supporters so that they could feel good. But neither of these things are going to happen. The most senior civil servant, the permanent secretary, John Paul Marks, spoke with Humza Yousaf and said that these things can't happen. They're economically illiterate. John Paul Marks himself even threatened to resign over the matter because it cannot be paid for. It is beyond the ability for it to actually happen. And that is why Humza Yousaf announced it at conference, where these things don't matter. You can say anything you like. Buns for elephants. If you say them in Holyrood, it has to be questioned and scrutinised, and it becomes official. And that's why he never announced it in Holyrood, because he can't, and he never will. What he's done is stand there and tell lies. Let's take a look at this. And honestly, it is absolutely jaw-droppingly astonishing. Here goes. So Humza Yousaf forced to redraw his illiterate spending plans after Scotland's top civil servant threatened to resign. He basically can't announce what he said. Now, he stood in the conference and said, we're going to spend £300 million on the NHS, we're going to freeze council tax, and he's done these things, but he's done them at conference where they're unofficial, where he can quite obviously lie to his people there, he can lie to the supporters, but he can't lie like that in Holyrood, because, as I say, it becomes official then, and it will open him up to so many problems. Anyway, rumours are rife at Holyrood that John Paul Marks, the permanent secretary, refused to sign off the first draft of the First Minister's programme for government because it was completely uncosted. It was an uncosted fantasy list of what he would like to happen if only he had the money. But he doesn't have anything like the money. Scotland's top civil servant is said to have had a furious bust-up with Humza Yousaf over his spending plans. Claims are circulating at Holyrood that John Paul Marks even threatened to quit his job over the row. First Minister unveiled his first programme for government at Holyrood in September, with critics describing it as underwhelming and offering only reheated Sturgeonism. The lack of ambition took opponents by surprise, with Scottish Labour leader Anna Sowar describing the plans as tired and rehashed. Now, of course, he wanted to announce that he's going to freeze this and he's going to do that and all these other things. Things that he announced at conference, but things he did not announce when they did this speech in Holyrood, because he knew he couldn't. Less than 6 weeks later, however, at conference, Mr Yousaf unveiled two huge pledges at the SNP conference: a promise to spend £300 million on cutting NHS waiting lists and the hugely controversial plan for a one-year council tax freeze. He didn't mention either of them, at Holyrood, and we know why. Opponents are wondering whether the two uncosted policies were dropped following the ultimatum for the permanent secretary, which of course they must have been now. We know this. He's been told he can't have them, and so he didn't announce them in Holyrood, and therefore there's no scrutiny over it. But he says them at conference so that all those wonderful, loyal 112 people or whoever that turned up were like, clapping like performing seals. Look at the brave and stunning man standing there telling us lies, but we will eat it up because we're stupid. One source told the Scottish Daily Express rumours have been sweeping political circles that the head of the civil service in Scotland, John Paul Marks, said that when Humza produced his first draft of his programme for government in September, he would be forced to resign because it was financially illiterate and would burst the budget by millions. So when you've got Scotland's most senior civil servant threatening to resign because of your own inability, your own economic illiteracy, you know you have a problem. But Humza Yousaf, such a moron, but he took it away. But then he announced it at conference because he thinks, I know, if I say that, then people will think I'm brilliant. But he won't actually do it. He cannot do it. It's lies. It's barefaced lies. And he's been caught out. The source added that the programme for government is an official Scottish Government publication, bound by all the civil service rules about financial transparency, while promises to a party conference amount to little more than candy floss. Buns for elephants, isn't it? You're giving them what they want to hear. The Scottish Daily Express has heard the same story from a second source, while a third person said it was unprecedented for the Permanent Secretary to threaten to quit over the programme for government. Now, it's never happened before. This guy's going to quit, or threatening to quit, because Humza Yousaf is that dim. He can't be worked with. He's so illiterate, so financially and economically illiterate. It's like, I'm going to spend this, and I'm going to spend this, and where are you getting the money from? Oh, it doesn't matter. Westminster will cover it. No, that's not how it works. Scottish Conservative Chairman Craig Hoy said, "This incredible revelation casts serious doubt on the financial competency of Humza Yousaf and the SNP government he is running." Well, they're already $1 billion in the hole. What's a bit more, you know? He said, "It is astonishing that the Permanent Secretary was apparently prepared to resign over what the First Minister and his ministers had proposed to say in the programme for government last month. Scots will be left wondering if JP Mark's damning verdict means that Humza Yousaf was left with no option but to announce certain and uncosted policies at the SNP conference rather than in Parliament, where they would have been subjected to more independent scrutiny." I mentioned that at the beginning. Mr. Marks, who previously worked for the Treasury Department, for the Treasury and the Department of Work and Pensions in Whitehall, was appointed by Nicola Sturgeon in January 2022. Earlier this year, it emerged he had emailed the First Minister to inform him of the arrest of the former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell. He must have taken great pleasure over that, I would expect. Other flashpoints during his career as Scotland's top government bureaucrat include clashes with his former colleagues in Whitehall over the use of public money and the impartial civil service to draw up plans for Scottish independence, which they've now been told they cannot do. And he has to agree with that because it's come from the Cabinet Office. Basically his boss, Chief of the Civil Service. Anyway, the council tax freeze may cost local authorities $183 million, possibly more, possibly as much as $500 million. Economists have said, as fears grow that more cuts to local services will have to be made, it's going to be absolutely draconian. What's going to happen now, if it goes through, will be absolutely draconian. Of course, the thing is, just because Humza Yousaf announces it at a conference doesn't make it so. And the councils themselves do still have the authority to say, actually, no, unless you're giving us the money, we're putting the council tax up. And that just makes Humza Yousaf look like what he is, an incompetent buffoon who's got absolutely no credibility, no power, no authority, and no fucking idea on how to run a government. On Sunday, Jean Freeman, a woman who should be in prison in my view, former health secretary and potentially, and rumour has it, allegedly murderer of 5,500 elderly people in Scotland, allegedly, and an ally of Mr Yousaf's predecessor, Nicola Sturgeon, said that the decision wasn't handled very well. Wasn't handled at all. It's a load of old rubbish and bunkum, isn't it? The decision was a U-turn on proposals that would have led to an increase in rates by up to 22.5% for the highest valued properties, and I expect that that will still now happen because Humza Yousaf has just basically shown himself up to be pointless. He's certainly got no authority anymore. He's done. It's time for a new leader. A Scottish government spokesman said these claims are not true. Well, they're going to say that, aren't they? As the First Minister made clear last month when he unveiled the 2023-24 programme for government, the Scottish Government's top priority of the year will be to reduce poverty, deliver growth, tackle climate change and provide high-quality public services, none of which are actually true or even achievable. Firstly, it's only independence first, last and in the middle. And secondly, they haven't got the money to do any of these things. As the principal accountable officer of the Scottish Government, the Permanent Secretary is personally accountable to the Scottish Parliament for exercising his duties under the Public Finance and Accountability Scotland Act 2000, which means that if he feels that he's unable to exercise those duties, he will resign. And the point of resignation is that Humza Yousaf is announcing stuff which he just cannot afford. He just cannot do it. He's not showing cuts. He's not showing where it's costed from. He's not showing where he's getting the extra money for anything like that. And therefore, it's illegal. It's basically going against the law, because it's unfunded, uncosted. But you can announce what you like at conference, and you can stand there and lie to people. But you can't lie in Holyrood. Anyway, I shall round there. I shall come up and we shall just go, wow. Absolutely wow. Coming up. I mean, that is absolutely stunning. When John Paul Marks, threatens to quit because Humza Yousaf cannot actually do the one job that he's told to do and come up with a plan for government. It means he's actually got no plans. He's got no function. And if he's got no function, what the hell is he doing? Why the hell have you even got the job? He cannot come up with anything because he can't afford anything, because he's wasted all the money that he could have used on other things on independence. What a tosser. What an economic knob. He really is. When the top civil servant threatens to resign because of the stupidity, ignorance, sheer moron that is Humza Yousaf, it goes to show what a sad state Scotland's in. How bad is it that the moron in charge can't even do some basic sums? My mind is boggling. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. It's frightening, really, isn't it? Anyway, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'd start saving up. You might need some spare cash soon when everything is gone and they're starting to tax beards or something. Anyway, bye.